Hi, my name is Diana. Welcome to my sewing studio. The video that you've chosen to watch today is regarding a product by Pellon called Vinyl Fuse. Vinyl Fuse comes in rolls like this. Let's see, I've got a little, there you can see it better. I had a little glare on there. It comes in a matte vinyl or a high gloss vinyl. The one I will demonstrate today is the matte, but truly, when they say gloss vinyl on this product, it's not super glossy. It's just a nice clear vinyl. It's a great look. But the one I'm going to show you today is the matte vinyl, only because I tend to use that more often myself, and that is strictly personal choice. So I love vinyl coated cotton. I have loved it for a very, very long time, years and years, but it's been hard to find. And for about the last 5 years, I have been on a search for beautiful vinyl covered cottons. And occasionally you find some. There is a company called Crafter's Companion out of the UK. Let me just say this at the beginning. Nothing I talk about regarding product name, I'm not being endorsed or supported or anything by any company. These are just products that I've used and that I enjoy and love, and perhaps you will too. So there is a company out of the UK called Crafter's Companion. Probably many of you have heard of them. I think you can buy their products through the Home Shopping Network here in the US, or go directly. I just buy directly from them online. But they came out about a year or so ago with this beautiful vinyl coated cotton. I just loved it. I love the print. I love the color. It's really good quality. But these are hard to find. I don't know if they still make this or not. I haven't checked recently. But it's really hard to find beautiful vinyl covered cottons. Sometimes you'll find one at your local fabric store or at a craft store. But they kind of come and go, and a lot of times they're just a utilitarian color. And if that's what you need, that's great. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying that for me, if I want a vinyl coated cotton, I want to go and use something that's made out of a cotton from one of my favorite designers, like Tula Pink or Kay Fassett or Riley Blake, something like that. And you can't really find those, or at least here where I live in the United States, I can't find them. So I've been on the lookout for a way to make them myself. There is a product, it's called Odie Coat. Don't know where, I think I bought this at a fabric shop, but I think you can order it online. Oh, I should say this as well. I won't talk about price in my videos. What I think is too high priced, you might think is fine. What I think is really low priced, you might think is exorbitant. And it's germane to what we're talking about. So no price talk. All I will say is if you have a way to get it on sale or with a coupon, go for it and save yourself even more money. But Odie Coat is a product. It's liquidy. It's white, so it's really hard to see it in this camera. But it's liquidy. If you smell it, it actually smells kind of like acetone, like fingernail polish remover, lighter, but like that. And you paint this onto your fabric with just a general old artist paintbrush. You paint a coat on, you let it dry, you come back several hours later to the next day, you paint it again. So when you use Odie Coat, I found that you have to really plan ahead because you have to prepare your fabric in advance, and it can take a couple of days to get it where you want it. I was not born with that much patience. So although I do use this from time to time, I don't use it a lot. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a personal preference. And I will say Odie Coat too made my fabric a little stiff, but when I rustled it up, it was fine. So really, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. It's just, for me, it was a time thing. And it's a little, for me, messier. And for everyone who knows me, they know I can be pretty messy. So it was a little messier, but it's a perfectly great product. And if somebody said, do you know of a product like that? I would say I would use this one. It's the only one I know of, so I would use this one. And it makes your fabric, I think, more like oilcloth, because I think it seeps into the fibers. So I think it's more of an oilcloth, but what I really like is more what I showed you here, a vinyl coated cotton. And to me, this looks completely different than oilcloth. So even though they're very similar, they're water resistant, waterproof, your fabrics. So what do you do? Well, a few years ago, I found this product by Pellon called Vinyl Fuse, and I like it a lot. There's nothing that has happened with it that I would say was a bad thing. So I'm going to show you today in this video how to use it and a few tips that I have for it. It's very easy. Instructions are right on the back of the box. You preheat your iron to a medium setting, and your iron needs to be dry and no steam at all. So when I do this, like today, I have my portable system set up here so that while I'm filming. But normally when I do it at my ironing board, and I turn off my steam, and I give it a good, I get it really hot and get it a good couple pumps to make sure some steam is out of it. And then I turn it down, wait a couple minutes till it's a nice even heat, and then I have not had any problems with it. It comes in this big roll, like I said, 15 inches by 2 yards, which is quite a bit. What I tend to do with it is when I pick a fabric I like that I want to be vinyl coated, I will do at least a piece that is 15 by 22 inches or so. Basically a fat quarter, pretty close to a fat quarter. And I'll show you why. This is a fat quarter. And I do that because then when I go to cut, I'm cutting everything out. It's pre-done. It's ready to go. I'm not waiting around. I'm not trying to fuse onto teeny tiny pieces while I'm working. All I have to do is cut out my pieces. They're fused and it's ready to go. So I'm going to show you this piece. I have a little bucket of these because sometimes when I go to the store, I'll see fabric and I'll say, I'd love a fat quarter of that, and I'd love it to be vinyl coated, coated. And so I'll just bring it home and coat it right then with this vinyl fuse and then put it away, and when I need it, it's there. But this is what the mat looks like. And you can tell right here, this is not coated, this is coated. And you can tell that's the mat. Very nice. And with vinyl fuse, it doesn't take away from the softness of the fabric. It doesn't make it super stiff. So if you did need this to be stiffer, you would want to put some sort of a stabilizer on the back, an SF101 or anything like that you needed, depending on how thick you need it to be. I made a project once where the back of it, the piece, was all fused with foam interfacing. And then the front, I did this. But always do your vinyl coating first. So this is what I do. When I get my piece of fabric, I take it over to my iron and I starch it. I actually use a sizing spray, and I spray it down. I get my iron on really hot and I iron it really flat. That way, when I put the vinyl fuse on, I'm much less likely to get any kind of wrinkles in it. Now, I'm going to show you something. Hopefully you can see it in here. Yeah, right there. You can kind of see that there's a little crinkle there. Yes, there is. Is that a problem with the product? No, that's a problem with the user. And I'll tell you why. When you use your vinyl fuse, you're going to take your fabric, lay it out. You're going to cut the piece that you need, lay it flat, and take off the backing. Don't throw this away. This is very important because you never ever want to put your iron directly on the vinyl fuse. It will be a mess and you will be sorry and you will cry. Trust me, I do know. But this, I even use this for putting on appliques. I use it as an applique pressing sheet sometimes because it's a great piece of backing paper. But you take your backing paper, you put it right down on top, and you press. You don't slide. Press 8 seconds, press 8 seconds. Now I will say I don't ever let it go 8 seconds because it tends for me to be a little too much. And I think that is iron dependent. like this little iron that I have here, the portable one, it gets super hot, even on medium. It's really hot. So I don't leave it down 8 seconds. So get a little piece of fabric. Just take a little piece. Do some testing on how long you want to hold it down. And then when you take it off, I say keep this. Use it for an applique pressing sheet. Use it just for a pressing sheet if you need to. It's yours already. It's inexpensive because you don't have to pay extra money for it, and you can use it for other things. That's what I do with that. And then before you like pull this up off of your thing, off of your ironing board, let it sit for just a couple of seconds, literally like 5 seconds. Let it sit so it cools a little, because it will be quite warm when you pull it up. And if I've forgotten, nothing's ever happened to it, but I just like to let it cool. It's easier to handle. You're not going to get burned. You're not actually going to stretch it or anything like that. But that wrinkle I showed you, how that got there is I forgot, and I did the sliding thing with my iron, and when that happens, it wrinkles the underneath fabric because it starts to make the vinyl stretch a little. So up and down motions with your pressing, not sliding. I know that's a hobby a lot of us get into when we iron and stuff, and so it's always hard to remember. And then if you're going to do pieces and keep them, what I do after I fuse it, I take the pressing sheet again and I just roll it up. And if you notice, I'm leaving the pressing sheet out just here at the end, just a little bit. I'll show you. See how it's out here? That's for 2 reasons. One, I don't use rubber bands. Rubber bands, I find, tend to mark your fabric sometimes, and they will get old and they will crack and crinkle. So I use painter's tape, or I use a low tack white paper tape. You can get it at the pharmacy or the grocery store. If you want a professionally made product specifically for sewing, Kimberbell makes a great product, a great paper tape. I also use a product called Frog Tape. They have, it's a painter's tape. It's yellow, and it's for it has a very, very light tack. So if you're going to be painting around something that's fragile or something and you don't want anything to get on it or peel, and it's the yellow Frog Tape, that works great too. But I tape it up, and then this roll can go over into my bin. Now the reason I leave this out is, one, a lot of the tape goes onto it. I know that's hard to see because it's white on white. Shoot, I should have thought about that. Sorry. And the other thing is with this out here, I can now write on this with a Sharpie or a pen, say what it is, how much there is, and so when I'm looking through my pieces, I'll know. That's just the way I store it. So that's how you do it. Now I'm going to actually do it for you. The other thing is when you're cutting your Pellon Vinyl Fuse, use a rotary cutter. You can use scissors, but a rotary cutter is so much simpler and you'll get such a nice edge. Now, I have rotary cutters all day long. I mean, I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Within my site, I have 6 rotary cutters. Don't ask me. Most of them were given to me as gifts or things to try sometimes. That's great. I love them, and I love them all. So just because I'm using one or the other of them today doesn't mean that's my favorite necessarily. It means it's the one I'm using right now. But so this is my good rotary cutter that I do my fabric with. But I'm putting that away because I'm just not cutting fabric. I'm cutting vinyl, which is a type of I don't want to say plastic, but that's the best explanation. So I have an old handle, an old rotary cutter handle, and an older blade that doesn't cut my fabric as beautifully as I like, but it's perfect for vinyl. So if you have a spare old handle and an old blade, keep it. I cut paper with it, I cut vinyl with it, I cut pretty much anything in my sewing room that is not a fabric, I will cut with it. So I will use this when I'm cutting my vinyl fuse. So I'm going to bring over my little sewing mat. It's really great if you have a pressing mat when you're using this because you can get a really good attachment with that. I get it to attach better when I put it on top of my pressing mat than I do my regular ironing board, but having the pressing mat is by no means required. So this morning, I cut out a little 5x5 piece, and here's the paper, and I used a 5x5 charm square, and I vinyl fused it. Isn't that pretty fabric? It's a leftover piece. If you're like me, you end up having tons of leftover little charm squares sometimes when you sew, when you use a whole pack. Sometimes you have leftovers. This was a leftover. So I vinyl fused it, and I wanted you to see this. This is just one straight line of cutting with my machine set at a 2.5 stitch length, just to show you that it doesn't crack it, it doesn't perforate it, it works perfectly, and it stays nice and soft. And voila, back to normal. The package does say that if you wash it, when you're done laundering it, you may wish to use the pressing sheet or the paper backing and press it to keep the attachment nice and secure. To be honest, I have never washed anything with this because the things I've made with it haven't yet needed to be washed. When you make a lot of bags and things, you trade them out a lot, so I don't have a lot of chances to get everything messy and need it to be washed a lot. But the package does say you can go back and reset it if you need to after laundering. And the instructions on the back of the box are very clear. There's nothing vague about them. So that was from this morning. And so now I'm going to show you with another. I have another 5x5 charm square, and here is, that was the paper, here is my piece of vinyl fuse, and it just comes off of the paper backing. But what I tend to do is I tend to use a straight pin, one of my sewing pins, and just come up under the corner a little bit and get it. Of course, now that I want it to come off, of course it's not doing for me what it does every other time without fail. It's never taken me more than literally one little shot to get this off. But it knows it's being filmed now, see, so it's not going to behave itself. Alright, I'll try another. Usually I just put this little pin right under the vinyl, and it pops it right clear of the paper backing. I should have had this checked. Okay, here's an edge. There we go, got it. Okay, so just take it off. Then there's definitely a side that's slightly tacky. I wouldn't say sticky, I would just say barely tacky. And then your front, you're going to lay it down onto your piece of fabric. Let's see, there, you can see better if I pull back there. You're going to lay it down onto your piece of fabric. With my hand, I can just smooth it out because this is a small piece. If I'm doing a large piece, a lot of times I will take one of my quilting rulers and I will do this with it just so that I get it nice and smooth on there. I tend to have problems if I don't do that kind of thing. So, and only because it's me. Again, any problems I ever have with anything is user error. It's not product error. So then I take my piece of backing paper, I lay it right on to the vinyl fuse as it was before it came off. Then I'm going to take my little iron, press down, hold 8 seconds, lift up, find a new piece, lay down, come here to the end. Then what I always do after I fuse the whole piece, I kind of go around all the edges and the corners. That's just something I do. It's not something it tells you to do in the instructions. I just get concerned about not doing it. If any of this gets onto your pressing mat or your ironing board, it will just peel right off. It's not a problem. I try to be really careful and not get it on my iron, but again, I'm sure it will just come right off, or you can just clean it off pretty easily. It's because it's not a glue, it's just the vinyl. Oh, see how I was just doing that? Wrong. Up and down only. Okay, so I'm going to let it cool for just a second. Lift it up. That's the pressing sheet, the little backing paper. And there is the vinyl coated cotton. And now you can make vinyl coated cottons with any of your favorite fabrics, and that's what I find fabulous about this product. It's easy to use. I have never had a problem with it starting to crinkle or get kind of yucky or yellowing or anything like that in the time that I've been using it, which has been a few years now. I'd say 2 to 3 years probably. So I find it a great product. It will only make the front side water resistant. It's not going to do anything about the back side that's still bare. So if you want the front of your project and the inside or back of your project to be coated, then you would need to then turn this over and do the process again to make both sides of it water resistant. And it does say on the package water resistant, not waterproof. And whenever you're sewing something, wherever you have sewn it, that's not going to be waterproof because you've got thread and little bitty holes from your needle there. So, but it's pretty doggone good. I've never tested it in the terms of putting it in a tub of water, but I believe when it tells me that if I spilled my coffee on this, it would be just fine. And I personally like using this for the outer part of a bag. I'm not really using it for the water resistant aspect. I'm using it for the fashion or the style aspect. I know a lot of bag companies are now making vinyl coated cottons, and they're beautiful. I love them, and I'm glad they're doing them, but sometimes they are considered purchase, and sometimes I'd rather make my own and use a fabric that I love. So that's Vinyl Fuse by Pellon. Again, it comes in matte vinyl and it comes in high gloss vinyl. You can find it typically at any craft store. I know Joann's carries it. I think Hobby Lobby might carry it, but I'm not sure. Those are stores here in the United States. And you might check with your local fabric store. If they don't carry it, they might be able to get it for you. And you might be able to look on Amazon and find it. Anyway, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment. I'll be happy to answer those questions to the best of my ability. If you'd like to subscribe, I've got more videos coming. So hit the subscribe button and the little bell, and the little bell allows you to be notified when I post a new video. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's shown you how to use this product and answer some questions that you might have had. So have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.